Good evening, everyone. My name is John Schoenhorn. I'm the chairman of the Farmington Zoning Board of Appeals. Welcome to our special meeting. And our first order of business is going to be to call the roll. And then we are going to go directly from that into the public notice of tonight's meeting. So if I may ask, Mr. Daigle, would you call the roll?
Of course, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Subramanian,
Present.
Commissioner Master Batista,
Present.
Commissioner De Santoro,
Present.
Commissioner Walsh,
Present.
Commissioner Gemsky,
Here.
Commissioner Grady Benson is out tonight, Commissioner Cloud,
Present.
Commissioner Callahan,
Here.
and Chairman Schoenhorn.
Here. So because we have two matters on, and that I understand that that Commissioner Grady Benson will be out will not be attending tonight. So I'm going to since we have two hearings, I'm going to appoint Commissioner Subramanian for the first matter and Commissioner Master Batista for the second hearing tonight. I believe you appeared as the regular commissioner last time.
Correct.
Yes. So I try to alternate. Okay, very good. So I'm going to ask, even though you're appearing remotely, would you, Commissioner Gemsky, would you read tonight's official notice, legal notice, please, into the record?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. Can you? Oh, much better. Okay, thank you. It was a little small earlier. Town of Farmington Zoning Board of Appeals notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a hybrid in-person and online public hearing on Tuesday, March 26, 2024 at 7 p.m. on the following applications. Noreen Galvin, application for a variance to locate a detached accessory dwelling unit and other, than the required yard at 162 Wood Pond Road, R20 zone. R. Pelton Builders, Inc. application for variance to locate a ground-mounted solar array and other than the required yard at 161 Talcott Notch Road, R80 zone. Interested parties are encouraged to participate in this hybrid public hearing. The link to the meeting can be found at the Town of Farmington's website. A copy of the proposal is available online or by calling the Planning Department of Farmington Town Hall at 860-675-2325, dated at Farmington, Connecticut, March 5th, 2024. Farmington Zoning Board of Appeals, John Schoenhorn, Chairman.
All right. So the way that our meetings run is we have two matters on, public hearings on tonight. The first one will be the Wood Pond Road matter. The way that we conduct our meetings, we start by hearing from the applicant. And then once the applicant has made his or her presentation tonight, the members of the commission, in order, if they have questions, will ask you questions. That will be followed by anyone present who wishes to speak either in favor first or opposed to the application. And after that, if there's any reason for you to give a rebuttal, or if you want to explain anything that was raised by anyone, I'll note it's not a very crowded meeting tonight, so this may be academic, but I'm letting you know that's how we run our meetings. So we will have you come up, whoever's going to speak on behalf of the applicant, come up to the podium, identify yourself and your address, and then we'll go from there. Now, a little bit out of the ordinary tonight, because the first matter involves a detached accessory dwelling unit. There have been updates to the recent updates to the zoning regulations for the town. I'm going to have town staff give a little bit of a presentation for the commissioner so they're aware of those updated changes to the regulation. So Garrett?
I'd be happy to.
Thank
So just so everyone's aware, so kind of a background, in 2021, Town of Farmington had to complete what's called an affordable housing plan. It's a new state requirement. It has to be updated every 5 years to address increased supply of affordable housing. One of the goals outlined in that was to modify our accessory dwelling unit regulation. It was formerly called accessory apartments, to what is normal. Accessory dwelling units are normally seen as what's called natural affordable housing. It's cheaper, usually cheaper than a living in an apartment complex or a standard apartment, and cheaper than obviously owning a home. It doesn't count towards our 10% state requirement in accordance with Connecticut General Statute 8-30G, but it's seen as an alternative housing option when affordable housing doesn't, when formal affordable housing doesn't exist. As part of that, there was an amendment proposed to the zoning regulations to amend our formerly accessory apartment regulation to now be an accessory dwelling unit regulation. Previously, accessory apartments had to be attached to the house and only allowed to be rented to a blood relative. And we allowed guest house in our R80 zone, which is our 2-acre minimum zone. The regulation was modified to allow detached accessory dwelling units in the R80, 40, 30, and 20 zones. So 2-acre, 1-acre, 30,000 square feet, half acre, by special permit, with the requirement that the unit has to be located behind the home or in the rear half of the lot if the home is set further back, and meet the side and rear yard requirements for the zone it's in. There's no restriction on who you can rent to. You are required to live in the unit for 6 months out of the year. And it can't be rented for, I think it's less than 3 months or 6 months. So it can't be used as a short-term rental or Airbnb.
Can I clarify, when you say they have to live in the unit, do you mean they have to live on the premises or in the unit?
I'm sorry. So they can either live in the unit or in the house. So
Okay.
if someone's like a snowbird, they've got, they want to rent out their main house, but they don't want to give up their address in Connecticut, they can live in the unit as long as they're there for at least 6 months, and they can rent out the primary house. Or you can live in the main house and rent out the the unit, and then as long as you're there for 6 months, and that's conditions of the special permit. That's also required for this. So the application is for an accessory dwelling unit outside of the required yard. If approved tonight, it still needs to go to Town Plan and Zoning Commission for a special permit.
And can you explain why it also needs to go to planning and zoning after we make our decision?
Yep. So ZBA is regulating the use in this case. I'm sorry,
The
the
location.
location. Thank you. And in Town Plan and Zoning Commission is regulating the use. Whether or not a variance is required for a location, it still needs a special permit from Town Plan and Zoning Commission for the use. The only accessory dwelling unit that's allowed by right is one that's attached to the house and less than 700 square feet. And no more than 1 bedroom. Anything outside of that needs a special permit from Town Plan and Zoning Commission. And the size of the accessory dwelling unit is limited to 30% of the living area of the primary home to keep it accessory to the main house. And this is in line with some amendments that were made to the state statutes in 2021 as well, that the town opted out of to keep local control. And then we amended them to be in line, but still have some control and the ability to change the regulations in the future.
And my final preliminary question, now this property borders the West Hartford town line, is that correct?
Correct.
And notice was sent to the town of West Hartford under our regulations to see if they had any position with regard to this request. Is that right?
Yes. So anytime it's abutting a town, we have to send notice to the town clerk and still comply with our notification requirement of 200 feet. Everyone within 200 feet of the property line on the West Hartford side was also notified by a certified mail.
All right. And did we receive any communications from the town of West Hartford on this application?
We did not.
Okay, thank you. So whoever's going to speak on behalf of the applicant, would you please come forward and come up to the podium and identify yourself?
Mr. Chairman, the representative for the applicant's online.
Oh, all right.
It's the sibling of the property owner. He lives out of state.
All right. So whoever you are, would you first identify yourself and please state your address and relationship to the applicant, please, for the record?
Hold on.
You might have to unmute yourself, maybe.
Sorry. Seems like his microphone might not be working.
Is the person online?
Yes, yeah, he's online. I don't see any audio coming in.
Is there an alternative telephone number that can be called in and
Yeah,
still?
give me one.
You're-
Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. We can.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. My name is John Galvin, and as Garrett mentioned, I'm the brother of the applicant and the owner of 162 Wood Pond, Noreen Galvin. Hey, Garrett, okay, thank you. I'll just narrate the deck that Garrett put together. This is a view of what would be the ADU, we hope, from the road. It's well set back. Some people think it's actually the house. What you're looking at is the currently finished space above the 3-car garage. Next one, Karen. Okay, so that's a side view. The space is about 525 square feet when finished. So it's much smaller than the allowed square footage for a ADU. And the next one, that's just another view. Okay, so this would be looking down past the garage to the main house. That's just a little shed down there. And a couple of things you'll notice. The property was really developed for the house to face the lake with the garage behind it. It's a very steep, it gets very steep once you pass the garage. And it operates, at least functionally, as a through lot would, except instead of being a road at the bottom, it's the lake. So the house faces the lake, garage in the rear. Next one, Garrett. Okay, and that's, we've done quite a lot of work on the house. We're proud to say we did not have to change the footprint. It was a mess. A lot of people interested in tearing it down. We wanted to have it be lake friendly, so we didn't increase the footprint. So this is the rear of the house. Certainly functionally, it's the rear of the house. As you can see, the mechanicals are back there and so forth. However, I think because it faces the road, it's considered the front of the house, technically, which of course it's not. But anyway, next one, Garrett. Okay, that's just the existing space. You can see it's already finished. A little dated. We'll do some work on that if we're allowed. And next. Okay, so this, if the property is not considered technically a through lot, and the front of the house is what we consider the back of the house is really considered the front of the house, then I think what Garrett is showing you is in that red box, that's the area that we would be allowed to build in. And you can see the garage is outside of that area towards the bottom of the screen. Next one, Garrett. Okay. All right. So on this plan, you'll see here, and this, I'll jump to what we think is the real hardship on this property. The property was really developed to face the lake, and as such operates as a through lot. It's also very steep and wooded in this allowable area. And the coup de grace, if you will, is that's where the septic tanks are, that's where the pumping station is, that's where the leaching field is. So obviously to finish an existing space, 500 square feet, with no soil disruption, no increase in the footprint of the property would be a lot cheaper, a lot less earth moving, and probably a lot friendlier to the lake. So that's what we considered the hardship. I should mention that the Lake Association has already was notified also, and they had a meeting. The president came back to us and said, essentially, their opinion was, it's none of our business. It's up to the zoning board, but they have no objection to the waiver to allow us to finish the space above the garage. I imagine if we didn't get the waiver and we had to sort of tear out the septic system, the pumping, the leaching field, build a foundation, put a house in, put the septic somewhere else, that would be a lot of earth moving. And I'm not going to say the association wouldn't be happy about it, but I don't think they'd be happy about it. So I think for everyone concerned, this is sort of seems common sense to go this route. It's very easy. It's lake friendly. It's certainly more cost effective for us. We're not looking to build a much larger ADU on the lake, although it's appealing to be on the lake. That isn't what we're trying to accomplish here. And again, I hope the board will recognize that this is a legitimate hardship on the property and will grant the application to move forward to town planning and zoning and acquire the special permit. Thank you.
Before I turn it over to the commissioners, there are a couple of additional pictures that I sent. I was at the property today, and I just want to ask that you have Garrett put those pictures up because it doesn't look quite the same today as it does in the images. So I'll just note, from the street, I took a couple of photographs. So that's one. And that's the second one. I note the top level has been gutted apparently, and there was construction going on today when I was at the street.
Right. I'm sorry.
That?
Yeah. So the whole property was really not well taken care of. The garage was even less taken care of. That whole area, that area above the garage was full of some critters, some bats, critters, lots of bugs, and had a lot of leakage of mold. So we made the decision that even if the ADU is not allowed, it just can't continue like that because it's really affecting the garage itself. The garage doors no longer operate and so forth. So we went ahead and we didn't think we needed a permit to just take out the carpet, the paneling and so forth. And the windows were all falling out. So it needed to be at least, it had been I think a yoga studio in the past or something like that. So we figured no matter what use it's going to be put to, even a storage area, it needed to be cleaned up. So there's no structural work going on there at this point. Just kind of replacing rotten siding, taking out the moldy insulation, chasing away the bugs and the bats.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Subramanian, any questions?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Master Batista?
Just one question. On the septic system, will this renovation tax that system anymore with an additional bathroom or showers, anything like that?
Yeah, actually, it's the bedrooms that count. I am fairly certain that we will have to do an additional tank. Well, let me just say this: in order to move forward with Farmington Valley Health District, we have to do a soil and perk test in the presence of an engineer and someone from Farmington Valley District. We also need to get a backhoe down there, which is, as you know, from the property, is not going to be done. It's going to cost a couple of $3,000 just to do the testing. So we're holding off on that to see if are we going to be ripping this system out to put an ADU in, or are we going to be trying to put a little auxiliary tank in? But in either case, yeah, I suspect that the existing tank is not going to be big enough. But again, adding an additional small tank and maybe having to expand the leaching field is certainly preferable to ripping everything out and having to put in. We'd have to put in a large pumping station. If there was an ADU in that spot where the septic is now, the only place then to put the septic and the leaching field would be up near the road. So that would require a heck of a pumping station to get everything up there. So it'd just be a massive undertaking. So obviously, we prefer just add a little tank to the existing septic, but we'll go through Farmington Valley and take their recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Sounds like you're definitely on top of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner De Santoro,
No questions.
No question.
Commissioner Walsh, Commissioner Cloud,
No question.
Commissioner Callahan.
No question.
I have a few.
Mr. Chairman.
Um,
Genfi.
I'm sorry, we forgot about Commissioner
Sorry,
Jenks.
How can you forget about me?
You're so little on the screen. Go ahead.
Can I just, I'm assuming that what we see in the picture that's up right now, if you go to the picture before it, I'm assuming the fields are in the red box that are denoted, you know, where the leaching field is. I'm assuming that's in the red box. Is that accurate?
Yes, so the tanks themselves are to, as you're looking at the photo on the screen, and I think the other plan, I annotated them, but on this one, if you're looking where the house is to the left,
Yep.
the tanks are to the right. Then there's a pumping station
Okay.
just above the tanks, and then the leaching field is above that, leading up to the garage.
Okay.
So putting a connection right now from the garage would be, nice pitch down into probably not the existing tank, probably an auxiliary tank. And then we'd have to see if the leaching field needs to be expanded.
Okay.
So obviously, if we put an ADU in that red area, that's
Right.
problematic.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add something. It's just a context. So the house shown here is, I think it's the 1970s when this as-built was done. The home was added on to after that. So if you look at
That more area.
real photo,
Okay.
so this was the existing home. So this was added on later.
Okay.
So when
Yeah,
you say
that's
the original home was 1940 and then the add-on was when? In the same year as the garage in 1950, according to your notes, or is that
No, I think it was maybe the 80s.
80?
I didn't
Okay.
get that, but the garage was, I think, in the 50s, and then that add-on to the house was, I guess, the 80s.
Okay.
Garrett,
think-
can you just zoom into that aerial photo again for me? Thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
No, I just wanted clarification on that. Thank you.
May I ask a question or wait till later?
Who? Oh, let me just ask a couple
Go
of
ahead.
questions,
Of
then we'll
course.
go around again.
Okay.
Okay. So let me just be clear that the original house, according to my notes or the planner's report, says it was built in 1940. Does that seem to be accurate from your knowledge about this property when the original house was built?
I'm sorry, is that for me?
Yes, it is for you.
Yeah, so it was an interesting property until you got inside. Then became, I don't know what the, I counted at least 3 additions to that property. And it was done rather haphazardly. The one that's annotated here is certainly the most recent. Probably it does look like the 80s, but there's at least 2 more additions. And they were done with no real concern about different levels. So when you went into the house, it was a series of steps down, steps up, steps down, steps up, turn around the corner. It was just a mess. And I think that's why it sat for so long. People considered it a tear down. But we kind of took the challenge on. So basically we just gutted the entire interior, raised one of the roofs a little bit, and then made it so that it's pretty much, there's one step down into the sunroom, but pretty much had the house make sense. So in going through there, I would say, yes, the furthest part, let's just say to the left, if you will, looked like it was the 30s or 40s, and then maybe the 60s, and then the final part about 70s or 80s.
All right. Well, what my was trying to get at is you're not making any changes to the house itself, whatever is in it for the exterior that would require this board to have to revisit this property in a meeting coming up. In other words, whatever the size of the house, its location, its footprint, you're keeping it that way. Because all you're here today on is basically above the garage and above it, right?
Absolutely right. We have zero interest in doing any more work on the house. It's already been more than and the whole thing was to avoid not having to change the footprint.
Okay.
Very
And-
sensitive to moving dirt when we're near the lake.
All right. The garage, according to the planner's report, was built in 1950. Is that your understanding as well? Obviously, you didn't own it then, but is that correct? The
Yep.
garage that you're now coming to us about creating an apartment at was built in 1950, right?
Yeah, that seems right.
And is the size of that, the footprint of that already existed in 1950? Is that also accurate?
Correct.
So its location, I don't know what, going back to 1950, what the zoning regulations were there, but there's already a pre-existing non-conforming use and structure at that property at this time, even if you don't do anything else to it, right?
Correct.
Okay. And is there currently plumbing or electricity that runs to that structure, the exterior building, the one we'll call currently the garage?
Yes, there is electricity and a couple of there's heating. There's electricity and heating, but the heating is electrical direct vents. Our plan is to change that to heat pumps. We'll have to keep it all electric. I think it's just too much earth moving to bring gas lines in. So we're going to make it all electric and then try to keep it efficient by adding running
pump.
heat pumps. Yeah, yeah.
And I can't remember who asked the question, but in terms of adding to the septic system, is there any kind of a bathroom or sink in that garage where there's currently any plumbing where water already can drain down into the leaching fields and septic system, regardless of whether or not you add on?
No.
Okay. And you said you have to talk to the health district as to whether or not you need to put in another smaller tank or more leaching fields. Is that my understanding?
Yes, we've been. I was in touch with Patricia Gigliotti and an engineer and a septic person. But to bring everybody onto the property and really do the perk test, it's about $3,000 expense just to evaluate the property. So we're kind of holding off on doing that until after this meeting.
All right. And although it's not really within our purview, do you know whether or not this portion of Wood Pond Road has sewers that one could hook up into rather than putting another tank and more leaching fields so close to a pristine lake?
It does not. That part is not, and we're very close. I had a conversation with, I think it was somebody from Farmington Valley Health District. It doesn't seem like there's any plans, and it sounded like we'd have to run the sewer system. It just wasn't feasible, quite frankly.
Okay. And you used the term pumping station. Do you mean a grinder pump, or are we talking about the same thing? What kind of pump would be necessary in order for you to pump additional outflow into the leaching fields here?
Well, right now the tank is below the leaching field, so there's a pump station between the two that pumps up. I don't think it grinds. I think it's just for excess water, treated water, whatever. you call that when it comes out of this. I'm not a septic tank. As you can tell, I'm from the East Coast. So septic systems are not, well, I shouldn't say East Coast because we have septic systems there, but I'm from New York City, so it's all public sewer and water. But because right now I'm in California, I'm forgetting where I am. But anyway, yeah, the pump just looks like a straight pump just to get the water up into the leaching field.
Okay, and I take
So I
it,
imagine,
I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
imagine if the ADU was put in the same place as the allowable area, we would have to remove those tanks. And short of being able to put in, we'd still need a pumping station to get up, even if there was a connection to the sewer. But short of that, I guess the tanks in the leaching field would have to be up by the road in that area in front of the ADU.
I just have a couple more questions for you, and then I'll ask the commissioners if they have any other questions before I turn to the public. But is the height of this unit, let me ask a different question first. Is the lower level going to remain a garage as presently shown, or are you going to make that part of the unit, the dwelling unit?
No, that's a current 3-car garage. Actually, it was a 2-car garage. They seem to have added a bay on the lower level for 3-car. But the space that's currently finished and what we plan to keep is above the original 2-car garage, and it's 23 by 23. It's about 525 square feet, and yeah, we're not adding any space to that.
Is the square footage the same as what is shown in the photographs that are here? Sort
Yes.
of like, all right,
Yeah.
you showed a plan where it's going to be a living room, a 1-bedroom, a kitchen, and a bathroom, and that's
Right. That's it. That's exactly what we plan to do.
and who is going to be living in the main house?
That would be my sister Noreen and her partner Michelle.
Okay, so the owner will be living on the premises.
Yes, yes. The ADU, and I know it's not regulated that way. We're really building it for hopefully Michelle's mom. But I don't know if some of you have been in this situation where sometimes elderly people don't want to leave their current homes, and then when they do need to leave it, so we're kind of trying. I mean, that's really the reason for doing this, so that when that time comes, it's ready. And in the interim, and I hope it's a long time in the interim, but probably not, then we would rent it.
Right. Well, it used, just so you know, it used to be, if I recall, that you had to be related in order to have an accessory dwelling unit in the town, and that's what's been updated. So you don't,
Right.
It doesn't have to be a relative, but I understand your reasoning for wanting to do that. All right.
Yeah, I don't think, quite frankly, if that situation wasn't there, I think we would just finish the space like we're doing now and, do something with it. It's a lot of work and cost. As I said when I spoke at TPZ on ADUs, the math doesn't really work to do these as profit centers. They're very expensive to do, and the payback, even with high rents, is very long. So I think for the most part, these ADUs, as they come before you, you'll see, are very often a senior citizen issue more than a profit-making issue.
All right. Thank you. We'll turn back to any other commissioners have any other questions?
Yes. For clarification purposes, what specific zoning regulation would be in violation if he were to continue with his plan as proposed?
You're asking Mr. Daigle that question.
Correct.
So the way the regulation is written
Mhm.
is that if it's detached from the home, it has to be either located behind the longest rear wall of the home or in the rear half of the lot. If it's a standard lot. The reasoning behind that is if you have a home that's set far back from the road, Now I can pull up I was looking around this afternoon in case someone asked. And obviously this is an extreme example. So you have this property here, the home's back here. We'll say the halfway point is about here without doing the formal measurements. So if the halfway point is here, you can put the house is far enough back from the road that it wouldn't look odd to put a shed or an accessory structure in front. It's the same standard as we have for our sheds in town, or detached accessory structures. So it could be located in the front of the home because it's in the rear half of the lot. That's what this map is showing. This red line shows the side yard setbacks, the rear yard setbacks for a primary structure, which it also has to comply with. We kept that as it's used for living space. So we're having it meet the standard setbacks for the zone. And then here is the middle half of the yard. So the property is about 250 feet deep, 125 feet deep is where the halfway point is. So that's where this line comes from. And the garage is located here in front of that halfway line.
Okay.
It's a complicated regulation, and we need to have some better graphics for it, which the regulations don't currently have. But that we use it for other uses in town, and it will come up with our next application this evening as well.
Yep. So-
Would it be fair to say, Mr. Daigle, that if somebody just wanted to build a 2 or 3 car garage in their front yard, they would have to obtain a variance and argue a hardship in order to do it if it was otherwise just a field or woods, that would not be permitted under our regulation?
Correct. So, and I know Chairman Jordan, you brought it up that the garage was built in some point in the 1950s. Farmington adopted regulations April 27th, 1950.
Oh, okay.
They could have started digging the garage. We adopted regulations. They already started building it, so it's non-conforming.
Mhm. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody else have any other questions here? All right, so I'm now going to ask for members of
Actually,
the public-
sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
I'm
had a-
sorry.
That's okay. I had a clarification question because I was just a little confused about the discussion. So regardless of, if you were to move forward with building on top of the garage, this new dwelling, this new area, you would have to add a tank. So you'd have to dig up that area to add a tank and potentially relocate the leaching field. Is that accurate?
Well, we don't know exactly what we have to do until we do the test. I also want to manage my expectations, so I'm thinking, yeah, just for cost perspective, you're going to have to put in an auxiliary tank. Next, it's a double tank right now. You're going to have to put in a separate tank, and the leaching field, I'm not sure, but it's basically have to just remove dirt and put in gravel. So that's kind of, maybe not worst case scenario, probably worse. Short of hitting ledge or something, in which case we'd have to put a separate septic system for the ADU up by the road, which is very expensive, but probably won't have to go that route. That's probably the worst case, the one I just mentioned. But again, that's miles better than removing the current septic system and pump station and leaching fields in order to build the ADU. I mean, in order to build the ADU in the allowable area right next to the lake. I should mention, in terms of, we're all very concerned about the lake, and that's why we decided not to knock down the house and build a McMansion there. When all of that earth moving is done, you now have another structure, which means more roof runoff into the lake. So we probably have to tear up more ground to do a dry well, at least. So it's just I don't know. It's just factors more difficult to put it next to the lake. And I'm sure there's people who would like to do that, build something up to 1,200 square feet right next to the lake, like a separate dwelling. But we just want a simple little 500 square foot finished area above the garage that's already finished. We're not looking to do that kind of project at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions by the commissioners? Okay, I'm now going to open it up to the public, both in person and online. First, we'll go to people in the audience here. Does anyone here in the council chambers here wish to speak in favor of the applicant? We do in favor first and then opposed. Okay, so is there anyone who would speak in favor? Or neutral? All right, sir, then I'll. All right. Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
Yes, good evening. My name is Jeffrey Moores. The address is 152 Wood Pond. We're to the immediate south of the proposal. I was coming here to address just a couple of issues, but what Mr. Galvin has said is leaving me with quite a few more questions. He has stated that the leaching field is between the home and the garage. I don't believe that's correct. The original septic was put in 1940. It was replaced in 1980. I have a document here. I'm sorry I don't have copies because I didn't think I'd need them. I shared it with Garrett, and I certainly would be happy to pass it around. It is showing the septic tank between the garage, but it's showing that the leaching fields are 2 leaching wells, which are in the front between the garage and the street. I don't know that that prejudices his case, but I think he ought to at least be aware of it, and this committee should be aware of it too. I'm sure the old leaching fields from 1940 were probably between the house and the garage, but the new one, Mr. Sikorsky, who was the owner, did indeed replace the septic. He had to move it when they added to the house. And that was done in 2007, and we were there to watch that. We moved in 1993, so I can't really tell you firsthand about the replacement in 1980 of the septic. I don't know if you'd like to see this or not. I got it from Farmington Valley Health. My understanding is the septic will be dealt with in a different hearing. But I think in order to consider his application, you should at least have factual information knowing that indeed the leaching field isn't where, or I don't believe the leaching field is where he thinks it is.
So if you do want us to review anything, it would have to be made part of the record. So you would give the copy to either staff or to staff, and it becomes part of our record, and we'll look at it before we'll pass it around. If you
Okay,
wanna.
yeah, I'm perfectly happy to. Again, I don't know how much bearing that has on it, but I think you should at least have the facts straight.
Yeah, I will note that we do not make any determination about, we're determining whether or not there's a hardship that would allow a variance under our regulations to permit this use.
Yes, and I understand that. The lack of a leaching field being where Mr. Galvin thinks it is would probably have a bearing on your decision. And it's with that in mind that I'm bringing it up.
Sure. Then I think that, good people on the commission would like to see this document as part of the record, right? All right, so if you would hand it over.
He's standing right there. We can just pass it.
You
And I'll
Right,
do
you
it
want to
again.
pass it, but we will have to make it part of our record. So if you give it to us, you want to just take the 1 page out of your packet and we'll. All right. Well, I'm sure at some point this, like tomorrow, maybe a copy could be made for you. So,
Okay, well, I'll be out in this neck of the woods tomorrow. And also there is already a pump that pumps the stuff up from the septic to the fields in the front. So, I wouldn't go digging up the backyard without checking that out. The other thing is, we came here with the expectation that the unit would be built for, I guess, Michelle's mom. And what I'm hearing tonight is it's built sort of in anticipation of, but it will be a commercial rental, at least for the time being. So that affects the other things that I have to say. They revolve around privacy issues. There's two things going on. The existing building now does not have any windows on the south side. It's the south side that faces our house. They have been pretty modest about what they're proposing. A smaller window in the bedroom and a window in the bathroom. But there's also a balcony on that side. If it was Michelle's mom, I don't think we'd be terribly concerned, but if it's going to be, college students or whatever, then that is a bit more of a concern, and we would ask for additional privacy screening. Probably in that area, maybe arborvitae or some sort of plantings would do. Garrett, could you show the overhead?
Hold on one second. Down at the bottom.
First photograph, yes. I don't know how well you can see it, but when the Sikorskys were there, they did put in some boundary plantings. But because of the way they were using it, they weren't really put in there for screening. They could really use a refresh. And we would hope that if they do, they use something like Chamaecyparis or arborvitae to provide some sort of privacy screening, because those windows look out on our back patio, and we use that quite a bit. The second thing, and you can sort of see the way the cars are oriented. When they come in, their lights shine right into our house in the what we call our dining room, but quite frankly, my wife uses it as an office pretty much 7 days a week. And if they just sort of came in and shut them off, it wouldn't be a problem, but they kind of start the cars in the morning. The lights tend to stay on for quite a while. So what we're asking for is some sort of a screening, preferably a fence, say 5 or 6 feet high, that sort of blocks the area on the apron of their driveway. It's a bit of a nuisance now, and if they're going to have a commercial rental there, that's only going to get worse. I said I'm neutral because the building is there. If they were putting something in for their mom, we would be sympathetic to that. If they're putting in a rental, well, we're less sympathetic than that. But unfortunately, the town of Farmington has seen fit to allow that in a single family zoning. So that horse has already left the barn. I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I'll field questions if anybody has any.
Sure. Could I just ask a couple of clarification questions?
Certainly.
Would you, the area where you would want the arborvitae, the screening, privacy screening, can you just from this image identify the location by either describing where it would be? I mean, I assume that white car from this image on the left bottom is your vehicle.
Yes, it is.
So if we were to move to the right across there, and there's a portion of your house where there's a chimney and that little, or the little shadow right there.
Oh, that's
That's a storage shed, and
Storage shed.
that does help blocking.
All right. So
So
where
if
would you
the-
want, if looking at the image from this, where would you want the arborvitae or other similar kinds?
Probably from the west-facing edge of our storage shed, maybe a little bit overlapping, moving towards the west. Yes.
But you're going past the front of the structure where the apartment would be. We're talking about the decking on the windows. If
Well, for the screening for ourselves, yes, it wouldn't have to be that far from the east, well, the west-facing part of our storage building until something somewhat in front of the proposed ADU. They do have a deck there, so it would be nice if it ran, about there. That would be great.
Okay. And I also just want to understand the vehicles that are, when I was there today,
Mhm.
they already park parallel there's already a parking area in that area parallel to the street.
Yes,
So even now, people can park there and then facing, unless they want to back into those spots.
actually, Mr. Sikorsky used to. That's why it was never a problem.
All right, but now if somebody pulls in there, even without anybody doing any other work to this property, you already have cars parking there, and if their headlights are on, shining towards your home. Isn't that correct now?
That is correct. What sort of brought this to a head is they were having some sort of an event about 2 months ago, was it? And somebody left their flashing lights on for like an hour and a half, and God, it was irritating as hell. But they do tend to leave the lights on, like, I don't know, they warm the cars up in the morning, so they stay on for like 10 minutes. It sounds like a minor irritation, but and I guess we get used to it. We prefer a little consideration.
I understand, but my point being that this is a problem that already exists regardless of whether or not they get approval to put in an accessory unit, right?
Right, but the increased traffic will make it worse.
Okay, thank you. Are you finished with your presentation?
I believe I am, yes.
All right, so I'm going to go now to the commissioners. We'll start with you, Commissioner Subramanian. Do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
Mr. Master Batista?
Nothing at this time.
No, all set.
Also, just one question. I assume from the pictures, there's not currently any kind of wall or any area between the two homes.
There are some boundary plantings, but they weren't planted with they're mixed. There's like grasses, rhododendron. There are a few arborvitae, but they were smaller. There wasn't a privacy issue because Mr. Sikorsky used that as a storage shed. He would go in there occasionally, but it wasn't used. So there was, and quite frankly, we got along fine. I'm not saying we don't get along with the new neighbors, but Nikki and Pat were very close friends. I'm sorry, I lost track of your question.
No, you answered. I'm all set.
Okay, yeah, they're not, the plantings are there. They're a little rundown, but they weren't planted for screening purposes. They were mostly just boundary plantings.
Mr. Callahan, questions?
So your prior neighbor used the area above the garage storage shed, not a living space.
Yeah, he was an inveterate collector. His dad was Igor Sikorsky, the helicopter fellow. And Nicky was quite a
Sounds
character.
familiar.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Gemsky?
No questions, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
We good?
Yeah.
All set.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Let's start with in favor of or neutrally regarding this application. Anybody online raise their hand?
If anyone has called in online and wishes to speak in favor or against this application, please use the raise hand function in Zoom. Again, if anyone online has called in and would like to speak for or against this application, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. Mr. Chairman, there are no hands raised.
All right, and does anyone, I didn't ask, anyone in the room wish to speak against this application? All right. So I'm going to just leave last question to the applicant. And I'll ask this one question. Would you be willing to, if this was granted, to agree to a condition of privacy screening that it would, at the very least would cover the south side of the structure, including the dwelling unit, including the area that has the porch or terrace, balcony?
Yeah, I was, I'm sorry, I kind of lost track there. So the, as Mr. Moore said, the side of the ADU facing their property does have a deck.
Right.
We were actually thinking of, if we ever redid that deck, I'd probably remove that part. I don't think anybody's ever walked down that side. But we may put a window there. So we're looking at putting some sort of screening on the deck itself that would block that
No, no.
window?
Out in the ground, that would
Okay.
be, say, an arborvitae or some other, I see there's rhododendron that may still be there now, but that would be large enough so that it would add some privacy to a window that's otherwise looking into their property. Would you
Right.
agree to that as a condition that you would have to then install and maintain arborvitae that would act as a privacy screen for whatever area, either if you're keeping a balcony / deck or a window area?
Okay. What if we didn't put the window?
Well, then I don't think it would. And I mean, the question is, if you were going to put a window,
If I put a window, we'll put an arborvitae. The reason I'm asking is that I'm not sure how high that window is on that side, not being able to see the elevation. So am I looking for a 40-foot arborvitae? But we will certainly provide screening if we put a window. Yes.
well, I'll just note if Garrett, can you pull up the image from the front of that, the garage now, the one from this one here,
Hold on once.
the white, the one that
Yep.
shows the,
Yeah.
This one or
no, the one that shows this, there's the view.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, from the
this
road.
one, that one. Okay.
Okay.
So we can sort of see, if we're looking at this image to the right of
Yes.
the image, is where the side that would, if you continue to the right, that would face the neighbors, that would go into the neighbor's property, right? So you can sort of see the size of these rhododendron, I
Right.
think, the rhododendron here. So, and
No,
so
my,
window on the side that we can't see, so to the, around to the corner there, and it's somewhat, I don't know if it's raised or there's a steep hill there. I can't really tell. You're right. I can't tell.
yeah, I'm not sure what the drop off is.
Right, but would you be willing to put some kind of screening in the size that we're seeing in this image?
Yes. Yes, I would.
Okay.
Could I ask if that includes the car lights too?
Well, I think that's a separate issue that I haven't asked about that yet, but we also heard some concern about, I mean, I was there today, so I saw where the cars park up on the flat portion of the property there. And there's a concern that when they pull in, the headlights point towards his house. Would you consider some kind of screening in the open area so that it would not be headlights shining directly into the windows of their house, even though that's not part of the actual?
Well, I would just say that I feel like we're terrible neighbors, and we've done everything in our power to not be, and be considerate while we were building, and noise and so forth. Having said that, I don't know. Maybe Noreen does, or Michelle, if this was ever raised directly with them by the neighbors. But I imagine backing in or putting screening would be very easy for us to do. But again, I don't know if that was ever asked directly or if this is the first time it's coming up.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is it's really not part of this application. We could not make it a condition that people back into the spots. I'm looking at it more as a practical matter in terms of placating neighbors' concerns, and that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, we will. I think, quite frankly, we want to, again, this property has been a tremendous amount of work. We still have a good bit of landscaping to do, and certainly putting something there. I think I'd probably put a fence before plantings.
All right, it was just a question that was asked by the.
No, I mean, we don't want our neighbors unhappy. So yeah, we would, it's probably something we would think about doing anyway, just to define that area, is to put some fencing with some plantings.
All right.
In the meantime, I'm sure Michelle and Noreen will agree to back in and turn their lights off
Yeah.
immediately.
This is Michelle. Would you mind if I spoke?
Not at all. I guess you're the well.
Thank you.
Of course. Go ahead.
We've been-
First, say your name and your address, please.
My name is Michelle. I live at 162 Wood Pond.
We have your last name, please.
Willis. I am Noreen Galvin's partner.
Go ahead.
I just want to mention that with Pat and Jeff, our neighbors, there's been a few times that they have had like a tag sale or anything, and we've been blowing leaves. So we stopped blowing leaves up the area to be considerate of the neighbors and, you know, the noise and everything like that. And Noreen and I have parked our cars. We don't typically park our car up there in that space, but when we do, we're like, oh, look at that. Our lights are shining in their lights. We should probably back in. So we have, you know, taken into consideration that they do live there. We try to be very considerate of all of our neighbors here because we all, you know, live here. This is our community. And the flashing light that Jeff mentioned was actually our neighbor on the other side of us. She was having a gathering, so we have all that.
Ms. Willis, I don't want to cut you off, but this is kind of outside the purview.
Well, I just want to say, like, if they had, you know, coming to the meeting and addressing something like that, they should have just come to the neighbors. You know, we're trying to be very considerate, and we will do anything that we need to do to make everybody more comfortable here. And I just wish, you know, we've always gone over there. We're open arms over here, and I wish they would have just came to us instead of bringing it to a public meeting. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else they want to, any commissioners wish to ask any questions? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So just before we close the public hearing,
Yes.
if it becomes a condition, I did do just a quick measurement, and if the condition to approve is to require screening, it would be about 50 feet in length.
50 feet.
50, sorry.
Is that, well, would that go past the side of the building then?
Yeah,
Structure.
so I went to about where the shed is, and then I went further just past the house, and that's about 45 feet. So if you just say 50 feet, round number. Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. I paused the screen. I'm very sorry. Going from about, come on. There we go. Sorry about that. So I went just past the edge of the shed, going to about just past the tree, about 50. There's a large tree right here.
And you're talking about the shed that's down by the lake, right? Close to
No,
the house?
directly behind the home. Here.
The one behind the house, the green one with the yellow door.
The neighbors.
Yes, this one here.
Oh, the
This'll
neighbor's
be-
shed.
Yeah,
I
this will be
misunderstood.
clearer. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So if we from that to just past to about where the walkway is on the neighbor's property is about 50 feet.
All right. Thank you.
So just for specifics.
All right. Does anyone else in the commission want to add anything or ask any other questions before we close the hearing? All right. I'm going to now close the hearing, and I'm going to ask that member make a motion.
Could I motion?
Of course.
Okay.
Or-
All right. Motion to vote.
Make the motion.
You have to make a motion to, well, our motions are always in the affirmative, whether you vote yes or no. And you use I know you haven't done this yet, so use the language of the notice for this application specifically to make a motion. And if you want to require any type of contingency, such as screening, you would have to make that part of your motion.
Okay. I motion to approve the application of submitted by Noreen Galvin for variance to locate a detached accessory dwelling unit and other than the required yard at 162 Wood Pond Road, R20 zone.
Is there a condition you wanted to add or no?
With the condition that they add in privacy screening of 50 feet.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Cloud second. Discussion, and maybe we should let Commissioner Gemsky be the first to speak since she's didn't last because of her absence from the room. Do you have anything you want to comment on?
I don't think so.
Okay, so Commissioner Subramanian, it's your motion then. Why don't you begin then? What is your comment that you want to make about it?
Yeah, I think I do hear sufficient hardship from the applicants that building the accessory dwelling unit in, the required yard would, interfere with the upkeep of the lake and make it really difficult in terms of like the septic and the leaching systems. So, and I do hear the neighbors' concerns about privacy, which is why I think that privacy screening would be fair to both parties in this situation.
Sounds good. Anybody want to add anything?
I can't speak right
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I forgot.
I'm all set.
You're all set?
I would only say that good fences and good arborvitae make good neighbors, so I hope that gets done.
My only, I agree there is a hardship. This is a pre-existing structure. It's there anyway, and it would need to be, whether it's made into a separate dwelling or whether or not it's used for storage, it's already there. The footprint is remaining the same. My only concern is, based on what I heard the applicant say, that if they chose to either not have a balcony or terrace on that side of the building or put in a window, then the privacy screening would not be a requirement in my view. So I would only ask whether the way it should be addressed is that that depending on what the final exterior is going to look like, that the applicant work with staff to put in the appropriate amount of screening in light of the fact if they choose not to put in a window or not put in a balcony on that side, that there may not be a need to have separate screening there. That's my only suggestion. I don't know if you agree with that as a.
I agree with them. I will accept that amendment.
And the seconder accept that as a
I do. It's a friendly.
friendly amendment. Okay. So does anyone have any other condition that they want to, any comments they want to make?
Excuse me. The comment that the neighbor made that whether or not it was a good idea to allow basically apartments in single family residence zones, that issue has already been decided. But I would not favor an amendment that says if there's no balcony, I would prefer that we have the original motion where the screening has got to be provided regardless.
Well, let's have a little discussion about that. I mean, do people prefer that there be privacy screening with consult with town staff be part of it, or only in the condition that there be either windows or balcony on that side?
I mean, I don't necessarily see the need for privacy screening if we don't put windows there. Because from what I heard from the neighbors, it was, according to the plans, it was the windows that would evade the privacy of their space. So if those windows weren't there, I personally do not see the need to have privacy screening and spend money on that.
Okay. All right. So does anyone else wish to comment?
I thought there was a porch. Sorry, I thought somebody said there was a porch.
No, it's Liz. That's Liz.
There was a balcony on that side, but I heard the applicants state that they would be removing it from that. Well, this is the other side.
No, yeah, I didn't. This is just for
This
clarification. I didn't go on the neighbor's property to take pictures.
Right, and we
there's a
can't
deck
really-
that wraps around.
you can't really, we don't have a picture in the record of that side of the property is all I'm saying. But I heard the applicants state that they may prefer to not have any type of structure, exterior balcony on that side of the building rather than put in the screening. So if they're not, if it's going to be just a wall, then I agree with the way the motion now reads, that it's not necessary to put in screening since there'll be nothing to screen other than the building that's already there. So that's my comment. So are we ready to call the question? All right, I'm going to ask for roll call, please.
Mr. Chair, is this for the vote or just for the condition for the screen?
I think it's one, it's the motion is as is. There was a suggestion made by Mr. Callahan, but I would also just request before we vote, in any event, this now has to go to planning and zoning for their approval. Is that correct?
Correct. It will still require a special permit with town plan and zoning.
All right. And they could impose additional conditions besides what we're doing. Is that
Correct.
right? Okay.
And just to clarify, what we're voting on includes the friendly amendment that we added.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's your motion. So yeah, with the amendment. Okay. So we'll call the roll.
Roll call. Yeah.
Yes.
Commissioner Subramanian,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Cloud,
Yes.
Commissioner Callahan,
No.
Commissioner Gemsky,
Yes.
and Chairman Shohorn.
Yes.
The votes are 5-1. The variance is approved.
All right. So, Mr. Galvin, Ms. Galvin, you're going to now work with the staff. You can't really do anything official until it's, notice is sent out, and you have to work with the staff to the accommodation. And I don't know when, or if this case is now scheduled before planning and zoning, but I just urge you to work with the appropriate authorities, including maybe the health district, so that everything is approved in a expedited fashion. So good luck. All right, so we're now going to move on to the next order of business, and at this time, I guess Commissioner Master Batista is the acting full commissioner this evening. So this would be R. Pelton Builders application for variance for a ground mounted solar array. And I'm going to ask whoever the applicant is or the representative are they present, or is this online? Present in the room. Please come up to the dais and state your name and address for the record, please.
Do I address you guys as commission or, okay, I live in Hartford, so different. And Adam Cloud, thanks for your brother for serving as treasurer. Well, Christopher Cloud, sorry. Thomas Kenny, 967 Asylum Avenue, 2H, Hartford, Connecticut. I work at R. Pelton Builders, EcoSmart. And Jan is our customer, Jan and Kimberly Haydinger. They opted in to get a ground mount solar. Yep. Oh,
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. Could you explain for us why this has to be in the location that it's in? We have to determine that there is a hardship so that we are not following our regular zoning. Why is this the location, where this needs to be? Could you at least explain that?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been in the industry for quite a while. I know about wetlands. I've done environmental lobbying, all that. So I know how to look for all this stuff. I think if we put it in the back, it would have been in the wetlands area. And after careful consideration, I designed a system myself, actually. Basically pre-engineered it, put everything together, and this was within the basically outside of the wetlands area. And it's about 1/10 of a mile away from the driveway, so it's not visible by the road. And actually, with the certified mail that we had sent out, we actually had more inquiries for ground mounts from the neighbors, believe it or not. So it seems like, you know, and if we consider doing rooftop option, you would need double the size of the array, and the homeowners did not want to do that. So when you have a perfectly due south ground mount, you don't really need as many panels. So.
Before I turn it over to the commissioners, I note that our property is bordered on one side by the Farmington Land Trust. Did you reach out to anyone at the Land Trust regarding this application?
Only the certified mail. I sent out every single neighbor within 200 feet from every angle of the property line. We even contacted the I think it's a zoning office, planning and zoning office, or sorry, I live in the city, so
No,
it's
you're fine.
very different. So we had, I ran a list of all the property cards through the GIS database and sent it over to them and said, hey, does this look good? They said, this looks like all the neighbors. So we sent out letters, just notifying them about the hearing, and that's pretty much it. But we don't have access to like data. I mean, you know, we don't know the information of the trust or anything. So other than the GIS database.
Right. And I just have one other procedural question. You indicated that the property is bounded easterly by the same person as the owner. Are these two contiguous lots that are both owned by the same person? Because I noticed that
Yep.
the owner of the property where this is also the adjoining property owner. So is this two separate lots?
Yeah, yes, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman. So it's a weird setup. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, I've driven by, so
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else did.
So-
This is way down from the road, so I
So-
didn't go down there, but I was curious about that.
Yeah, let me it'll be a little easier with an aerial photo if you give me 1 second to pull that.
By the way, it's been a long day for me. It's about 17 hours and I'm still awake. So
Um
Well, as long as you're standing, you're good.
yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, so here's 161 Talcott Notch right here. This is the land trust piece that you mentioned. 8928 is also owned by the property owner. It's listed as two separate parcels, with a easement for the driveway over that piece. I believe at one point it would, so it's considered a lot of record. So theoretically it could be sold off, and developed on, but it was sold as a package when the homeowner bought it. So it was two lots. So it's still listed as separate lots theoretically in the future if they wanted to sell it off. Probably be extremely difficult to develop, and whoever was looking to build would probably be in here anyway to get some setback variances. But it's two separate parcels. So this is
Got
the
it.
parcel.
Okay, that clarifies things.
One
All
thing I wanted to mention too is that, you know, the state of Connecticut and PURA, Connecticut Deep, they've done a lot of studies on surface lots and just doing ground mounts, carports and ground mounts. So you're going to see a lot of PV battery storage throughout the state. It's going to help our grid become more resilient. So having stuff like this, you're going to see a lot of it popping up the next 10 years.
Okay, so I'll go around the room again from the commissioners. Commissioner Subramanian,
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Master Batista.
This is the optimum spot for this solar,
Yeah, so I did a shade analysis. You know, the homeowners would have to cut quite a bit of trees just to get the ground mount done. You know, we're talking a little bit in southwestern orientation, if you're looking at it that way. So just that area alone would be the most optimal for them to get it without having to do tree cutting. And most homeowners like trees anyways. It provides shade, but you know, and I'm very environmentally conscious, so less tree cutting would be great. But this was the most optimal area to put the ground mount.
okay, thank you.
Commissioner DeSantoro.
Yes, so you said that they didn't want it on the roof mounted,
Yeah, so I mean,
was that
and
considered?
yeah, it was considered. We actually put together a couple different options. Rooftop was one of them. But after careful consideration with the rooftop, two different ground mount systems that we designed. One of them was in the back of the house. Wetlands was an issue, so we didn't consider that. And you know, they would need double the size of the solar, making it more expensive. And this is going to be the most ideal for them with less panels, just because of the tilt and the orientation, the azimuth of the ground mount structure. You know, rooftop is the most affordable option because it's an existing structure. But you have to do weight load calculations and all that to go through permitting. And, you know, ground mount second, carport's the most expensive. So this was going to be the best option for them, period.
And what is the size of this structure? What will it be?
So the modules are, and this is going to sound technical, they're Hanwha Q-cell panels, so they're about 3.5 by 6 feet tall. That's about 35 panels. So I don't know the math offhand, but sorry, I deal with a lot of customers every day.
Maybe
So,
43 feet, 4 inches, maybe?
yeah,
I
it's
can help out
roughly
with that.
around
Yeah,
that,
so
yeah.
the plans that were submitted, the raise, I believe it's the footprint is 43
Mhm.
feet 4 inches long
by
by 16 and
20, yeah.
3/4 of an inch
Yeah.
deep. When you put them on an angle, obviously that changes, and then the height is 11 feet 3.5 inches at the top of the solar panels.
And you can't see, you won't be able to see this structure from a road
No,
or
no.
a neighbor.
I actually wish I provided the 3D model of this. Won't be visible from the road. I even did the rendering in 3D for the house and the ground mount so you could see everything. I wish I did provide it, but I don't think I would be able to convert that into a PDF, but so you won't be able to see it at all. And it's just not visible. You could drive by multiple times, and during the winter, you won't be able to see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this photo was taken from the driveway. This is about the area of the array. There's evergreens behind it. And then I believe it was in the agenda review. I'm sorry, I got it. My pages are over. There's about a 30-foot elevation change between Talcott Notch Road and where the array is down. So it's about 30 feet below the road.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
No questions.
Commissioner Cloud?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. By the way, it's nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Welcome to Farmington.
I'm trying to move out of Hartford, so
Come to Farmington.
I'm looking at Putnam, so we'll see.
I moved out of Hartford as well.
Nice.
Water's warm over here.
Yeah.
First of all, I used to live on Pelton. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the house that's sunken down a little bit. from the
Yeah.
road, right?
Yeah.
Okay. First question. What are the plans to power this up to get it to the house? You're gonna have to obviously go and dig a trench through the driveway.
Yeah, we would have to run a so trench and conduit. Obviously this is very preliminary plans, but I mean we could trench it the other way as well to avoid any issues. But that is, I don't see the measurement number, but it's 100+ feet of a conduit run. So you would need a trench across the run conduit.
And that's the pathway in yellow that you would take.
Yep, yeah. And actually, the overlay, the white squares, that's actually just kind of showing for, this is a site plan, but the actual panels would be black on black, like modules. So very clean looking aesthetically, and microinverters too. So you won't really need to have you know, full string of panels going to like a centralized inverter. The microinverters would sit behind the modules. And I actually have a photo here from another customer that we have. 1 second, just to kind of show you. They kind of look like this. Can't really see it too well. My phone's a big phone, but that's a microinverter.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
So the technology itself is a lot more efficient than a standalone inverter that has a central point of failure. So
Now, is this meant to be a whole house? Will it cover all the power?
yeah, so this is designed to meet the home's consumption, their electric load, plus the homeowner's wife she's getting a EV, I believe, might have gotten an EV. So that's going to also be able to offset the electric load from the electric car charger. One of the big issues that people will see in the next 10, 20 years is a lot of solar systems that are not planning for electrification. And as I don't have my badge here, but I'm a company's authorized contractor with the utility for the HES program and other programs. They're basically going to electrify everything. And I sit on calls with Deep and Pura and all that myself. So I see all this stuff happening, and you have to size everything accordingly to the home's electric load or projected electric load. So,
Appreciate that. So
Yeah.
then going back to the hardship, what I heard you say was that any other place that you put it either had trees covering or back in the back there is wetlands. That's why you all chose this location.
yeah, and even if you look at the property's parcel, they own quite a bit of land, but it would require a lot of tree cutting. Me personally, that's just extra expense that's not needed. You could utilize a lot more of the space that's there and install it there. Plus, tree cutting is very expensive, especially now, post-COVID. So,
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
That answers my question.
make it.
Commissioner Callahan.
If you combine the two parcels owned by the owner of the property, how many acres?
I don't know that number offhand.
And that could be a question for you or,
If you
Alright.
just give me one.
Says
second.
it there somewhere.
Uh,
Just,
I think it was just for the one property. So if you give me 1 second, I can do that.
Yeah, I think you would have to select the two parcels through
so it's 5.9 plus, right?
1.8.
so 7, just about.
7.74 acres or,
so different than the other parcel we considered on Talcott Notch.
yes, and that was
Couple
that was a corner lot. That was the issue there.
And it was a much more, well, and another question I've got is, have there been any comments from the neighbors to the positive or the negative?
We have not received any comments to our office. Doesn't mean no one's going to comment on the application tonight.
I can mention that. So we've been getting calls. Actually had an appointment today with one of the neighbors that lives across the street. His name is, give me 1 second. Russell Duffy. He lives at 146 Talcott Notch Road. He actually would like to look at doing ground mount, so we're evaluating it just based off of the experience from here. And I've done plenty of ground mounts myself near wetlands and all that, and I've never had any issues throughout the many years.
I'm all set.
Commissioner Gemsky?
Yes, so I just have to go back to why this is not being mounted on the roof. And I'm not sure I heard exactly why. Is it because they didn't want to? And before you answer that question, Garrett, the whole reason this is before us is because it's a ground mount and not a roof mount. Is that accurate?
No, so we do allow ground mounted arrays by site plan. And it's under that same essential setback requirements that we have for the ADU that we just discussed. So it has to meet
Okay.
the setbacks for the zone. And it has to be behind the rear wall of the home or in the rear half of the property.
Okay.
I'm just going to use the aerial photo for that. So obviously because the lot is so deep, it would need to be behind the home. So we'll say we'll
Yeah.
just parallel line across here. But that's a heavily wooded area. There's wetlands adjacent. There's a stream that flows along the property line. And the arrays proposed here in front of the house in an existing cleared area.
Okay.
Does that clarify your?
Yeah, it clarifies my question, but I still don't understand why they didn't.
I can answer the
forward.
question about the reason why. So with the rooftop option on a per square footage basis or per square basis, if you want to talk about roofing, you would need a lot more solar modules placed on a roof. And the price actually was a lot more expensive for the rooftop unit because you would need so much more panels to offset the home's electric load plus adding electric car charger. And I'm not sure if they're planning to do heat pumps, but that's gonna add to your electric load as well. And with this was basically sized accordingly. So this was actually more affordable for the homeowners than doing a rooftop array.
Let me just note, because until you said that, you know, I didn't have any problem with this, but let me just tell you what our concern is, right?
Yeah.
We have to find a hardship that following the regs
Mhm.
won't work because of something unique about this property. Expense is not one of the things we can consider. All right.
No, I understand that. And
So-
I'm not in operations, I'm just
Right.
the
So let me-
salesperson, but
So if there's a choice, just so you know, we rejected a few months ago
yeah,
the
I'm a,
ground mounted array down the street.
Yep.
And I drive by there all the time. They put it on their roof.
Yeah.
All right, because they were a corner lot and it was right by the road and there was a lot of objection to it. But, I'm just saying, we did not find that the hardship was sufficient. Okay. So when I hear you say, yeah, we could do this, but we like it better here, it's cheaper to do it there.
it's more affordable.
We can't consider that because what we decide, it goes with the property. So forever, whether your client, sells the house tomorrow or not, right? So what I need to hear is why putting it on the roof would not be an equal choice, because then you wouldn't need us to vary our regulations, which means to
Yep.
set them aside
Yeah, no,
for one person, because if we do it for him, then we'd have to do it for everybody else if it's simply because it's cheaper. And,
Yeah.
we don't want to be considered unfair to other people if we say no.
no, I understand that. And I deal with a lot of customers that are in Greenwich and Fairfield County. A lot of people don't like rooftop solar. Part of the big objection that I've come across with a lot of different prospective customers per month is the look of it. Solar shingles, they're nice, but they're more expensive, right? So when you look at traditional modules, people don't like the shape or the color of them. Well, they're coming out with panels that look exactly like shingles, like traditional modules, but they're expensive. So when you start looking at aesthetics and all that, maybe the homeowners in 5 to 10 years, let's say they want to move out, the new homeowner may not want the rooftop unit, and they're not doing a PPA or a lease option. This is them owning an asset that's producing power on site and helping them save money. So,
I'm not sure you're answering my question. I'll
No,
preface what I'm saying is I have solar panels on my roof.
yep, I
okay?
understand.
So, I know what they look like, and
Yep.
I've had them now for 6 years, okay?
Yeah.
So my question is, in order for us to approve this plan, we have to find that there's no alternative that's reasonable based on the layout of the land, what the property looks like, the structure, that you would not be able to put that array, for that size array, on the roof of this house, for example.
No, I get that.
So what is your answer to that? Because that would be an alternative that wouldn't require us to vary our zoning regulations.
I understand that, but
What is your answer to that?
it's
I think
literally,
Mr. Gemsky asked that.
it comes down to costs.
That's it.
That's literally it. I mean, can I put this in perspective? Just hear me out on this. The retail rated power for electricity in Eversource territory is 27 cents. Their levelized cost of energy, literally about, I think it was 12 cents. That gets locked in for 25 years. That's a big price difference. When you add more solar, that levelized cost of energy goes up.
Okay.
And that's
Let
what
me
the
ask you one
rooftop-
last question then.
Yeah.
I look at this satellite view of the house, and the parts of the roof that are kind of pink, that's the sort of south facing view of that house, right?
Yeah, but there's no shading factored into that.
Got it.
No
So
trees
if-
were drawn into the design for the rooftop.
Well, that's something I would want to hear from you. I mean, I look at this picture and obviously it's been highlighted a bit. Would you be able to put those number of panels on this roof without having to cut down a large number of trees.
So the
Well, that's
the initial proposal, this was, I think, the third rendition of the proposal, the rooftop unit did not make sense.
Well, again, you're saying it doesn't make sense. I'm asking,
Yeah.
would you be able to put the number of panels to produce the amount of kilowatts that are in this array
No,
without on the roof, without having to cut down a large number of trees?
you would, yeah, you would need to cut down a ton of trees.
You
to-
would.
For
Okay.
the rooftop unit. And that's what I was saying, that you would need a lot more solar panels on the roof. And if I were to redesign this whole thing, draw the trees, all that with the LiDAR tool that we have, you would need a lot more solar, about double the size compared to the ground mount.
Would there be enough roof space to put double the number of panels up there if you needed?
It's very tight with all the setback rules with the international code. It would be very tight.
And are each of these panels, what are they, 400? What are they,
I
400
think
amps, 400 watts?
I think these are 405s.
405.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. I have no other questions. Anybody else wish to follow up?
I guess I'm wondering, what is the hardship?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to grasp.
I'd so
Other than the expense,
Yeah.
what is the hardship to the homeowner? That we're supposed to allow him to put a ground level solar array as opposed to rooftop?
so I don't work.
know, but I guess I can wait. You would have to wait well, if you don't know
So
the answer, we'll.
I don't work in operations, so they're the ones that put all this together. Unfortunately, they can't work past 5 o'clock. I work quite a bit, 6-7 days a week. So I wish I had them here to explain more of this here, but I'm a very technical salesperson, by the way. I'm not like just your cookie cutter salesperson. Yeah, the hardship side of it for me personally is cost, and just it literally boils down to money. I know that.
So you understand, we're not allowed to
No, I
consider
understand that,
cost
but-
as the concern, right?
No, I get that, but in the state of Connecticut, when you factor in, and I know this is not answering your question, but the state of Connecticut did a study that cost them $1 million on surface lots and ground mounts. And the price of solar has dropped, but it's going to boil down to cost. You look at carports and ground mounts, it's the most expensive way to do it, but it's going to save people money.
Let me just say this, because
Yeah.
I can speak from personal
Yeah,
experience, right? If I had cut down, I live in the woods, if I had cut down 10 or 15 of my very tall oak trees,
Mhm.
I could have had less panels and it would have cost less money for the panels, but it costs like $1,000 per tree to cut down my trees, okay? And I live on a hill, all right?
Mhm.
But I chose to add panels, and I'm just, I'm not saying this is, my decision's based on this, but I'm just explaining why, there's an aesthetic reason to add more panels versus cut down trees, but we're not allowed to consider that.
right.
So I will hear from someone else in the room, but the question might be, based on these concerns, do you think that you might want to either postpone a decision, like withdraw, or ask for a continuance, so you can answer those questions from the people who leave at 5 p.m.? Just throwing that out there.
Sure. I mean, so I'm very customer facing. I don't deal with operation stuff.
I know, we get that.
Understand.
Here's the concern that we're raising. You've heard that people are troubled,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And once we close the hearing, we have to vote,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, if you want to
It's based
postpone
on
it,
the record that we have.
sure,
here.
that's fine. And, I can talk to our team back at the office, and if you want to postpone this, that'll be great.
Do
Sure.
you wish to, because we have.
Yeah,
to
of course.
vote
I
within
mean-
a certain period of time, unless the applicant asks for,
So John, right?
yes.
I wake up every day to help out people, whether if it's community work that I do or customers, that's what I do, period. And, if I can
You
help
do a
out,
good job, I can tell you, do a good job with that. Let me ask,
if we can postpone
staff,
it, that'd
let me
be
ask
great.
Mr. Daigle, what is the process if they wish to get questions answered that we've raised and ask for a postponement of the decision. Is that something that the applicant can do?
Yeah, it would just be a continuation to the next meeting. The public hearing's open, so you have 35 days to close the public hearing. That the next meeting's well within that 35 days, especially since this is a special meeting later in the month. I would just ask that you be specific what you're asking for. We do this anytime we have a continuation. We want to know specifically what information you're looking.
And let me just turn to the commissioners and just get a consensus. Would people prefer to have answers to those questions from somebody who would be able to answer them?
Yeah, I'm not seeing hardship.
Yeah, I don't see, understand what I'm gonna vote on.
Right,
It,
so.
it would be nice
see
to know
why
what
it
the
might
town
be-
is looking for, because to be honest with you, this is,
We're looking for a hardship.
no, I get that. And from my experience doing this is kind of very archaic, in my opinion. But I'm young and I see things very differently. My worldview is very differently compared to.
All right, all I'll say is,
But-
It has
we're
nothing
elected.
to do with the world.
No, I understand that.
We get elected, if they don't elect the
I
zoning
get
board of
that, I
appeals
get
in
that.
Hartford, I think they're a point. So
Yeah.
we're elected officials.
I get that. I get
And
that.
we've raised concerns because we have to follow the regs. We have the right to override the regulations.
I
right?
get that.
To set them aside. We need to find by law
Yep.
a hardship.
Yeah,
And it sounds like the questions we've raised, someone other than you might be able to answer it.
sure.
Such as, specifically, why would this array not work on the roof? Okay, that would be a specific question. Now that may,
If, I would say if. I'm not sure the why it's more, does it or does it not? Not
I-
if it-
I'd be-
maybe other concerns.
I
but
could
other-
provide engineering documents that show the big differences between the rooftop and the ground mount and
For this particular
for,
property.
for
This-
this, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
could
so-
provide shading analysis, technical reports.
All right, so then
fine.
what I'm gonna do is, are you requesting then that we continue the hearing till next month's meeting?
Sure, yes, that'd be
Okay.
great.
All right, so that's fine. So let's take, do we have to vote to continue it? Yes.
Yes, but I would say you do have the public hearing open.
Leave it, oh, yes.
I would let anyone that's called in comment if they want to. The homeowner is here as well.
Oh, to let them speak now?
Yes,
Oh, I think
Yes.
that's it.
just to be on this, we have it open.
That's fine. All right,
I
think
would
that's a
say
good idea.
the commission determine what you. No, I'm sorry. We'll have let the public speak first, as they've called in, and then you'll make a motion to continue the public hearing to the April 15th meeting.
Yes.
And the information we're looking for, and I can go through each member of the board and get what information they're looking for.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna, do you have another question?
Quick question for you. Sorry. Are environmental reasons suitable grounds for hardship or no?
No, I don't think so.
That's a question it's not a yes or no question. There are regulations that explain what the hardships are. There's statutes. And there's the training that you just received that
Yep.
would also answer that question. It's not a yes or no.
Okay.
It's yes, but, okay?
Yep.
Right? So I don't know if so I'd rather you look at the regulations. There's some of them are set out in the zoning regs, some are in the statute. And we have some discretion, but we have to find an actual hardship and that's defined in the statute.
Okay.
Okay?
Can I
So-
say something too, there's in the letter that we submitted, I don't know if let's forget your name, so we provided some information here regarding this, but again, it's out of my wheelhouse because I'm not in operation, so.
I'll just indicate, A would not be, well, wetlands certainly is a hardship. Remember, we have to look at issues about the land.
Yeah.
But if we can, but one of the things that we need to inquire is there an alternative that doesn't require variance? And that's why we're asking about rooftops.
Yeah.
And several people have, at least including myself, have
Yeah.
expressed some question about it. You said there are other people who could answer that. So let me turn to the homeowner who's present and he can make whatever statements he wants. Do you think there are people online that was just, oh, there are?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So let's
Sure.
let's Do you want to speak in favor of the application, sir? And please come up, state your name and your address for the record.
So, yes, so my name is Jan Damkjær. I'm the property owner at 161 Talcott Notch Road. And obviously, besides everything that Thomas has been telling you guys, you know, ground mount versus rooftop. Our property, our house is a timber frame home. It does not have an attic space. So once you, I don't know, John, if you have an attic where you could run your
Whole
ducting.
unfinished third floor in my house.
Yeah, so everything would have to be run on the outside of the house. And if you look at the property, you can see that you have about 5 or 6 surfaces where you would have to put solar panels. So you're going to be running ducting on the outside of the house. And I'm sorry, then it's not going to be solar on our house. It's not, you know, it's just not going to happen. It's we hope that, you know, everybody is looking for a sustainable future and adding solar to their houses. But, you know, we don't want to do this with, you know, it's a timber frame home. There's no spaces. It's just, you know, it goes right up to the rafters.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? I mean, I could go around, but does anyone have any specific questions for?
Just on the timber frame thing there, so just give me a visual, or so in the attic area, there's no room?
There's no
for
attic.
Mechanicals, there's
Nothing.
just no room,
Nothing.
no crawl space, nothing,
Nothing.
okay.
So it's exposed all the way up, so.
Yeah.
So it's an
There's
open, like.
there's
in a-
one part of the roof area. It's unknown what's underneath there, but that's one of the smallest areas. Otherwise, the large area that you see down to the right, that is timber frame all the way up. There's nothing else. And the same thing on the rest of the property on the left, it is just timber frame.
So you're saying it's not viable to make those connections?
You know, you could, I think you could, and you could, you know, cut down a lot of trees. But it's just not going to happen. I don't want to do that. I don't want to cut down the trees. I don't want to, you know, this is a property that if you've driven by it up on Talcott Notch, you can actually see the house. And I do not want those solar panels on my house. So, you know, the proposed site where they are, it is, there's no cutting that needs to be done. It is ready, it's set, it'll receive solar on day one. I don't have to cut down any trees, and it is absolutely unseen by the whole town of Farmington.
You have a question? Oh, I'm sorry,
I was
Commissioner
gonna
Hudson.
make one more comment about the placement. I mean, I lived on Talcott Notch at 242.
Mm-hmm.
And from where I'm looking on this sketch, if you put them there, it's true that you would not be able to see them from the road, the way that it ducks down. You can barely see the roof of your house,
No, you can see the house.
Talcott Notch.
You can
So-
see the house from the road.
In the winter, you can.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
Yeah, in the winter. I'm trying to argue for you here.
Yeah.
Please be my friend. That it's a decent placement because it's enough of a drop from the road to the property.
Yeah.
So that this would not necessarily be seen unless maybe in the winter at best, this panel, where it's placed right now.
The proposal, you will never see it. It is absolutely unseeable.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Sorry, in terms of getting a quantitative answer to how much of an impact this could have on the trees, if you were to go forward with the plan, you know, that fully follows the regulations and getting all the solar panels on the roof, is there a way we can estimate how many trees that would be cutting down?
Around 30 trees, maybe?
Of course, yeah.
So when we put together proposals for homeowners, there's like carbon emission offsets. The carbon emission offsets is actually going to drop if we decided to do rooftop and cut trees. And I could provide that data to you guys if you'd want. This actually does a pretty good job of offsetting carbon emissions and sorry, it's been a long day. So the ground mount would actually do a lot better with carbon emissions than the rooftop because of the tree removal. Our software that we use is like an upgraded CAD. So when we model in trees using LiDAR, it actually does a full calculation on carbon emission offset, electric loads, all that. The carbon emissions would be actually worse than doing ground mount. So just, I could provide that data as well.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I just want to clarify, are you also in favor of continuing the hearing? So you can get the data concerning how many panels and whatnot? Are you telling us that it wouldn't matter?
It's, yeah, good question. I really, the house, it's not gonna happen. I mean, this is a affluent area of Farmington. And, you know, you select a certain type of solar panel, if that's what you're putting on your house or anything else. And I think the last thing you want when you put solar panels on your house is to degrade the area, which is what, you know, exterior ducting would do to solar panels. It's not something that you would see in Farmington.
Well, I don't know if I agree with you on that aspect, you know, because a lot of houses have solar panels on them. So, but
Is your ducting on the outside of your house?
I'm sorry.
Is your ducting on the outside of your house?
Oh, no,
No,
it's not.
because it doesn't look good. It's, and I'm saying this is an affluent neighborhood. This is something that, you know, you'd like the houses to all kind of fall in under the same standard, right?
Right, but let me just clarify. The level of affluence is not the issue. It's whether it would look different and not fit within the neighborhood,
Mhm.
not whether because these are higher end homes that, you know, where you are up Eli Road and all those new houses that they just
Mhm.
built, which used to be woods. It's whether it would not, if there are a lot of conduits coming down the side of the house, it would make it seem out of place for the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Not whether.
Which is also why I think the last system was denied, because it was sitting out by Talcott Knots Road and was not gonna, you know, fit the neighborhood.
Okay, all right, and you,
I-
yes.
The one question I have is, so, because I don't understand really what a timber framed house
Mhm.
looks like, so with no attic. So all the ductwork would have to be outside the house
Mhm.
to install the array of solar panels.
Mhm.
So in essence, that would disturb the look of the house in the surrounding neighborhood.
Yeah, big pipes coming down
Yeah,
the side of the
So,
roof and down. the
wouldn't
side.
that in itself be a hardship?
Well, that's what we're talking,
Yeah.
that's what we're debating.
Right.
All right.
Can
Anybody
I ask a question? So I just have a question about, you're saying there's no attic. Where is the current ductwork in the house?
The ductwork in the house is, there's a chase up a chimney that goes in the center of the house. So
Yeah.
that is some of the ducting. The ducting for the south side of the house, those are 3 bedrooms over a garage, and the ducting is run underneath the flooring through the garage. And then the rest of the house obviously is, you know, downstairs, so that all comes from the basement. But yeah, there's not, you know, we're trying to look at how are we gonna run new lights in the house, and you can't. There's just nothing there.
If I can also maybe just clarify, when you talk about, there's no act, we're talking about like in, like a post and beam lodge where there's a point where the roof, there's an apex inside the house.
Yeah, it
So
goes
that
from
there's no-
3 floors. There's
no attic with insulation. The
No.
house goes up to the roof.
Yeah.
So it's a pointed
Yeah.
place, or at least close to being pointed at the top
Yeah.
within the house, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you mean. There's no place for the conduits and the the electricity cables that go to the inverters to
Yeah.
come in through the house, through the walls and go down into wherever you're gonna have you're having a battery backup system put into?
No battery for now, but yeah, so you're correct. And that's where on the house, I mean, if we did run the solar, you'd have systems on each of those planes of the house. So
Yeah.
you're gonna have to run ducting from each of those planes.
Right.
We had solar on our last house on White Oak Road, and I mean, fantastic. I mean, we totally disappeared off the grid as electricity owners and users, and I mean, what an amazing thing to do. But we had an attic, and we could run the ducting through there.
Okay, thank you. You said there are other people that wish to speak. So let's start with anybody who wishes to speak in favor of, thank you, you can
Okay.
proceed. Thank you very much, sir. Wishes to speak in favor of the applicant.
Anyone that has signed in online that is looking to speak in favor of the application, please raise your hand. Mr. Chairman, we have Jan Barber. Jean, I'm sorry. You should be allowed to talk now.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jean Barber. I live at 211 Mountain Spring Road, and my property abuts the property in question. I actually hopped on because I was concerned about where exactly the variance for the solar panel was going to be. But after hearing this, I have a few things to note that may play into your hardship considerations. Because my understanding is that a variance is, it's not personal in nature. It follows with the property. So if you look at my property number 211 and property number 161, they wouldn't have to pay for a variance if it were set back behind, or wouldn't have to file for a variance if it were set back behind the house, which is my understanding. But that area and the area between our two homes, there's actually an MDC easement. And for that, you can sort of see a path almost. It's on my property. Yep. A lot of wildlife and animals travel between these two. And also from my house in the winter, we can barely see 161, but a little bit. So my concern really was that the solar panels would be behind the house, in the way kind of the passage of the animals, because they seem to follow this trail oftentimes, but also so that it'd be an eyesore for me personally. But I'm familiar with the property enough, 161, because I drive by it every day, that truly if the solar panels were on the roof, they'd be more visible from the road and from my house. Where they're proposing it be located is in a more private area. It's not something I would do because I wouldn't want to stare at them. But I don't have concerns that it would be visible from the road or from my house. I can't answer the question of why it can't be on the house, but I do think it would be an eyesore because you can see the house a little bit from the road during the winter. So it seems to me that the variance proposed is a reasonable one, and I would support Jan's, our new neighbors, with the variance. But I just wanted to shed a little bit of light as to why I can't, again, speak for the roof issue, but why it wouldn't make sense to do it on the back, in the backyard, between cutting down the trees, disturbing the wildlife, and the sightlines.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of, is it Barber? Is that your last name, Miss Barber?
Yes.
Anyone? No? All right. Commissioner Yansky, do you have any questions for her?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to speak? We'll now go either in favor or in opposition to the applicant.
Is there anyone else present online that would like to speak for or against the application? Please use the raise your hand function on Zoom. Again, if there's anyone else that would like to speak for or against this application, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. Mr. Chairman, there are no hands raised.
All right, so I guess the question is, do we want to, in light of the rest of this testimony, do you want a continuance? Or do you want us to now close the hearing and deliberate? I'll leave it up to the applicant at this point.
I would like to just close it because, I mean, this is either or to me and.
I understand.
I think the future of solar, I think you guys need to consider the future of what's gonna happen in the town and I mean.
I understand your
I
point.
understand
All
there's
right.
people in the past that has been turned down, but, you know, this is hopefully the way we're going.
All right, so based on the applicant, I assume that then we have the discretion then to not leave the hearing open. Is that correct, Mr. Daigle?
Yes, the only recommendation I would have is if anyone has any trepidation or anything and would like to see more information, just voice that and we can determine whether you would like to continue or not.
All right.
And I know that was the discussion before we open to the public, so that.
Right. Does
just getting
anyone
that.
feel that they do need more information or?
I would say yes, I'd like to see more information. I think it would benefit the applicant if we had more information, because right now, I'm a little torn of what the hardship is right now. So I think maybe more information might help you, it might help us. So that's where I stand right now. I don't want to vote no against something when there might be an opportunity to educate us and hopefully educate you guys
You're in
to
agreement with that?
have your proposal come out favorably.
Okay, so by consensus, we would agree then that we'll then take a vote. You want to make the motion to continue?
I will make the motion for Peloton Builders to extend keep the hearing open to bring more information to educate the ZBA board on your application.
And specifically with regard to the question about why either the number of panels or the manner in which the panels would not be appropriate, but why it would be part of the hardship to put it on the roof.
Okay.
As an issue, because that's really what we're concerned about,
Yeah.
right?
I would,
Right?
yes. Garrett, if you could tag that on too.
Yeah,
Well, that
so
more information about the alternatives. How about we say it
Yeah.
like that?
Yes.
Yes,
alternative,
absolutely.
Because the
Right.
zoning regulations provide that a ground mounted unit can be installed, but it's got to be behind the longest
Of
wall.
course, right.
And this one isn't. And my concern is
Mhm.
the location chosen may be the best location, but why is that enough for hardship?
Exactly.
Because it's the most economically sensible
Yeah.
location.
All right.
That was my initial question. Is this the best place for it?
All right, so let's. then-
Maybe, but is that a hardship?
All right, is there a second on Commissioner
Second.
Mastrobutti?
It'd be
All right.
ridiculous.
Commissioner Walsh, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, so the matter is remaining open and will be continued to our April 15th meeting. 16?
no,
16th,
it's the 16th.
the Tuesday. I think it's town meeting on Monday.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Oh,
So
so it's the
16th. I'm sorry.
16th.
I'm sorry. I
Oh.
had the date wrong in my head. I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay.
That's good, my birthday.
All right, so we'll see at least we'll get some information from the builders on the 16th or before that preferably, so we can review it ahead of time. All right, thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, just for the applicants, just have someone from the office call me tomorrow or Thursday and I could discuss with them.
All right. So we have the minutes. Is the next item on the agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was there, and I was just gonna, before we adjourn, was there a matter you wanted to bring to our attention, Mr. Daigle? For
I realized I didn't put planners report on the on the agenda, but it is in the.
It is there. It's on page 5 down at the bottom.
Yeah, it's in my agenda review, but it's not shown on the agenda.
Right.
Mr. Chairman had asked for an update on two matters that you had previously ruled on. 61 Eli Road, that was the clearing along the ridge line. Staff is looking to schedule a meeting with the property owner in the next few weeks, probably near the end of April, just to inspect the plantings that have been installed. We did inspect, I want to say it was December 13th. It was like the week before Christmas. It was very cold up there, but we did go inspect the saplings that had been installed and counted them as well. And the other one was 174 Red Oak Hill, which was the appeal you heard
Recently on the,
2 months ago now, I think it was February or January.
Yeah.
Anyway, the 60 days that the board gave for compliance expired on last Sunday or Monday, I believe. So my colleague, Mr. Sear, has performed an inspection, and property still appears to be in violation of the regulations and the town ordinances. So Mr. Sear will be following up with that. I believe the homeowner had called him. I don't know if they were able to connect yet via phone call, but that's where it stands currently.
all right, so we don't need to take any other action. We took the action.
Yeah,
and
there's
now
no,
it's-
there's no more action to take. Theoretically, if you were to come into compliance with the regulations, technically that would resolve the violation. If you then became out of compliance with the regulations again, that's a new enforcement order and require a new appeal.
It would,
So if he came into compliance,
if he came into
yes,
compliance,
came into
got it.
compliance, that resolves the violation. If he was back out of compliance again, then it's a new violation and it could be a new appeal,
But what you're telling us, he's never been in compliance,
as far as we're aware,
as
yes.
far as you're aware. Okay, thank you. All right. So last item on the agenda is adjournment. May I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second, anybody?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All- Have a good Easter, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.